Nature is nonlinear. Nature is mechanics. Nature is composite. Nature is structured. In short, nature is the dance of nonlinear mechanics, of composite structures. प्रकृति गैर रैखिक है, प्रकृति यांत्रिकी है, प्रकृति समग्र है, प्रकृति संरचित है. संक्षेप में प्रकृति समग्र संरचनाओं के गैर रैखिक यांत्रिकी का नृत्य है. भूमिमंगलम भूमिमंगलम उदकमंगलम उदकमंगलम अग्निमंगलम अग्निमंगलम वायुमंगलम वायुमंगलम गगनमंगलम गगनमंगलम सूर्यमंगलम सूर्यमंगलम चंद्रमंगलम चंद्रमंगलम जगतमंगलम जगतमंगलम जीवमंगलम जीवमंगलम देहमंगलम देहमंगलम मनोमंगलम मनोमंगलम आत्ममंगलम आत्ममंगलम भूमिमंगलम उदकमंगलम अग्निमंगलम वायुमंगलम गगनमंगलम सूर्यमंगलम चंद्रमंगलम जगतमंगलम जीवमंगलम देहमंगलम मनोमंगलम आत्ममंगलम सर्वमंगलम भवतु 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 सर्वमंगलम भवतु 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 सर्वमंगलम भवतु भवतु भवतु.
Very good morning, everybody. In the previous class, we were looking at various modeling challenges, and today we will have a concluding slide on that because towards the end of the last class, we were looking at how to address those conflicts that are arising from requirements which seem to be impinging on each other. So we looked at how, for example, accuracy as well as efficiency can both be simultaneously handled. One last modeling challenge that I already discussed, but didn't discuss how we can address it. We will finish off that and start with a new topic for today. So this is essentially the fact that we need both the rigor as well as the engineer friendliness. So we already saw the need, why we need rigor, why we need engineer friendliness. Now we'll see how we can, in our approach, guarantee both of them simultaneously. That is not only one of them, but both of them, how to balance this tightrope walk that we want to do. So the rigor that we want is guaranteed by the fact that we start off with physics-based models or science-based models, as the case might be. For most of this course, we will be dealing with physics-based models only because we are only interested in mechanics, so we can even say mechanics-based models. But essentially, when we are looking at multifunctional materials, which is what is the forte of our lab, many of our students will be looking at aspects beyond mechanics within physics, like electromagnetics, and beyond physics as well into electrochemistry, biochemistry, etc., depending upon the kind of materials that they are dealing with. For example, battery fibers or let's say biocomposites, where we are talking about certain biological entities that are involved, and also if you're talking of let's say DNA, as one of the students is working on, etc. So in all such cases, we have to bring in certain aspects beyond the physics as well. So in general, it is science-based models. So taking into account the current state of understanding of that science, rather than some outdated theories. So that's going to be the starting point. So once the starting point is good, the foundation is good for whatever we are going to derive, and therefore things are quite rigorous. And the other aspect is it's not just enough to start with a very good science-based model, which we want to dimensionally reduce, but also the process of that dimensional reduction has to be done with the help of a mathematically sound process, which is what we try to do through the variational asymptotic method and a few other techniques that we discussed as the tools that we have in accomplishing our vision, mission, and the strategies. So that's as far as rigor is concerned. The Example of that, of course, is in modeling structures as nonlinear dimensionally reduced structures. Typically, those are the only ones which are used as primary structures in almost all aerospace vehicles. So, as shells and beams, that is, and very fact that they are slender, that is, they are either very thin shells or beams which are very slender, that the cross section dimension is very small compared to the overall length, and as well within the cross section there are certain small parameters because of the thin walled nature of the constructions, whether it's an I section, T section, channel section, or closed sections like circular or rectangular, or multiple boxes as well. In all those cases, the walls are typically very thin, which means that there's one more small parameter from the geometry coming from the cross-sectional geometry itself, and all of these lead to nonlinearities. So we will ensure that all those nonlinearities are captured, not just those which are observed, but whatever is important to a particular level that we are progressing in the model, and which also means that we generalize the solution process to as large a class of problems as we can cover in each kind of solution category, and if it cannot, then go for a separate solution category. But essentially, we do not want to have separate theories for different kinds of boundary conditions or different kinds of geometries, etc. We want to encompass the whole thing into a single paradigm. That's essentially what the variational asymptotic method does. So that's as far as guaranteeing one of the requirements, which is rigor, is concerned. So rigor is guaranteed through that. The one which was contradicting that, because when theory becomes very rigorous and its algorithm and the computational implementation all become quite rigorous, the engineer friendliness is affected if you don't embellish it or package it in an appropriate way. And packaging is pretty much everything in today's world. So that's packaging is what engineer friendliness is all about. And there are multiple aspects to this. So one of the most important thing is the graphical user interface that we need to provide, both for the inputs as well as the output. And many of you are familiar with working with FE packages, be it Abacus or Nastran or ANSYS, etc., and even multiphysics packages like COMSOL, or mathematical packages like Mathematica or MATLAB, Maple, etc., FEAP for finite elements. Many of these commercially available and very popular software. One of the main reasons for their popularity is the graphical user interfaces, the ease with which you can access certain libraries of material data, and also certain shapes out of which you can create more complicated shapes, some basic shapes from which you can construct them, the essential CAD that is there over there, and also of course the post-processing that is involved to extract out the results in a form, graphical forms, both two-dimensional and three-dimensional depictions, which can create very colorful images. But unless and until you know what is going on behind it and the ability to interpret it is there, most often than not, it's garbage in, garbage out. So that's the danger you have to be careful about. But nonetheless, because of the fact that it's not just engineer friendliness that we are looking at, but also rigor, so we are doing both simultaneously, building into the black box the rigor and packaging it with an engineer friendliness which is accessible to. This is kind of somewhat similar to the design philosophy of great companies like Apple, where they put in the best that is available in terms of the technology, both hardware and software, but essentially package it into something that anybody can very easily access and utilize them. In terms of the learning difficulties, it's very not much at all. So whereas the implementation of WAM, deriving a new theory using WAM for an entirely new problem, is a challenge challenge for beginners, for learners. It's the learning curve is steep, but utilizing what has already been derived and just deploying that for the classes of problems, any specific problem that it is applicable to, that is very, very simple. So that's essentially what we are doing. So what here we said that it's both science as well as math which come to help our rigor. Either one of them is not good, that is your starting science is not good, or your math with which you come up with a reduced order model is not good, then it's as good as the weakest link in the chain, and therefore it's not as rigorous. So both have to be established for rigor. And as far as engineer friendliness is concerned, it's not just GUIs, but which is essentially translating the model into a computer program. So the model is actually something that is actually visible on the screen to the user in terms of its geometry, in terms of its material distribution, in terms of the boundary conditions, including the loads that are applied either at the boundaries or the inner loads that are coming because of body forces, etc. So all of that has to be kind of translated appropriately into the computer program. So what you see is what you get, kind of a thing. That's essentially what the GUI design needs to encompass. Of course, this is more of a computer science related activity, but as have been all continually pointing out, just like the boundaries within aerospace between propulsion controls, aerodynamics and structures is all dimming off, and people are working in multidisciplinary areas. Similarly, it's across streams also. Many a times aerospace engineers are required to do computer science kind of work. In fact, many of the jobs that aerospace engineers eventually get into are in the computer science industry. It's debatable whether it's for the good or the bad, but nonetheless, it's important for all of us to know certain aspects of other aspects of engineering, at least, and computer science engineering and graphical user interfaces are one such. So that, and it's kind of easy with the high-level languages that are available today, be it Python or Julia and things like that, to build upon these things. So even for more complicated problems than what we are looking at here, in terms of putting all these together into a machine learning or an artificial intelligence kind of a paradigm as well, there are high-level languages which can aid us in that path in keeping the learning curve not too steep. So that's one thing, is the translation from the model to the computer program and vice versa. The other aspect is of course also to ensure that those people who are already using other software, like, and many examples of which I already mentioned, like ANSYS, etc. So the way the input data is provided in that, typically, for example, in the form of files, let's say input files, can we translate those input files automatically? There's an automated system by which it can be translated into an input into a WABS or WAMUch or any other WAM related software that is concerned. So and vice versa, so that you can easily go between these two. So for example, a particular industrial partner is working for many years on a particular commercial software. For them to change over to a software that you offer essentially means that they are not going to do it overnight. It has to be an overlap that is typically there, where they continue to use both the software, what their legacy softwares that they have been using, which even in spite of its less accuracy and or less computational efficiency compared to our offering, still because of the ease of use that they have and the training that they have already invested in for a huge number of their engineers, they would not immediately jump from one to the other. It's not like a you stop this and start this kind of a thing. So it's usually an overlap, which means that you have to be able to exchange input-output files between these two systems, which is also something that is essential. So these GUIs to serve as modules for aerospace component design as well. It's not just analysis. And once you use it for design, you are looking at post-processing, which is even more involved because of the optimization loops that you have, iterations that are involved. And as a result of all of those iterations and the optimization, we eventually come up with certain performance indices. The simplest example of which we already saw in the previous course in terms of the strength-based design, stiffness-based design, stability-based design, for each one of which we had certain parameters which we could compare across materials and do that. So that is as far as material selection goes. But there's so many other selection aspects which are involved in the overall design of a structure, especially structures as complicated as those for flight vehicles, and therefore performance indices become very critical. And in multifunctional materials, these performance indices can take on multidimensional approaches, and therefore you have even more of a multi-objective optimization than you would otherwise do. And then, of course, many a times these are presented in the form of selection charts to enable a visual understanding of what is on offering in terms of various choices that the designer has to make, and eventually the shape factors that are involved as well. So all of these are typically things which need to be done, not from the point of view of rigor, but from the point of view of the acceptability by the industry for their routine application. So these things have to be kept in mind. There are challenges, there are conflicts, but there are also many ways in which we can address those conflicts and challenges so that we can cater to those requirements simultaneously. So that's what I wanted to just take to a completion from the previous class, because in the previous class we looked at the various other conflicts as well, and we resolved most of them, or all of them except this one. And so I wanted to bring that to a completion as well. Now let's move on to a new topic, the main one for today, which is essentially looking at how dimensional reduction has been done, because this is not a new thing that came up after WAM. WAM itself is about 40 years or more. Oh my god. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me? Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, Kaja. Hello.
Professor is facing some power problems, so he said he'll meet you all on Wednesday. Okay, till then, see you.
मृत्युंजय मंत्राः
त्र्यंबकं यजामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् एते सहस्रमयुतं पाशा मृत्योर्मर्त्याय हन्तवे तान् यज्ञस्य मायया सर्वान् वयजामहे मृत्यवे स्वाहा